Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your Monday? Hope you're having a good one. Hello to our friends in the United Kingdom here. Miss Me, better known as London. She's here with us from the United Kingdom. Funky Bronco is here. Apparently is inebriated as usual. That's great. Miss Me is here. London. I'll probably go back and forth on that name. We've got Roller Skater Texas Girl. We've got Gene 1313. We've got other humans. More will roll in as we get going here. It's going to be a fabulous time. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. It's the truth, I'm telling you. We do. Before we get started, please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. All those absolutely free things you can do. They don't cost you a shilling. See, UK, I'm thinking about you. Just click. That's all you got to do. Don't smash the like button. That's a little bit violent. We don't want violence. Please, just like, share, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing algorithm. Plus, we have super chats and memberships. We love it when you do that because, it helps us pay the bills around here. And Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Last but not least, please turn on your gifted memberships. Very kind, generous, philanthropic people will gift you, just out of the goodness of their heart, they'll gift you a free membership to the show. It tells how to do that in the scroll at the bottom of the screen. Oh, look who's here with us. One of our favorites, our resident Cajun, the official Cajun of the Tom Gulley Show. Side effects of the Tom Gulley Show included highly entertaining, being stone green, saying Cobra Kai at random, and wanting to eat shoes. And don't forget to call in when we do open the phone lines after I'm done telling you about tonight's topic. Let me tell you about the attempted assassination of Gerald R. Ford. President Gerald R. Ford, by the way, one of two presidential assassination attempts on him within 3 weeks. Yeah. Just about 17 days after this one. Yeah, another one. I don't think you can say this is the best assassination attempt. This is the one most people know about because it involves a person who is also famous for doing other violent, murderous things. Kind of. Oh man, right out of the box. Doc is here with $5 donation. Thank you so much, Doc. You are such a cool dude. Thank you so much. Cobra Kai! Because that's a thing. Cobra Kai! Cobra Kai. Thank you so much. And Doc, of course, for that donation, you receive the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a member of the Tom Gulley Show audience. And that means you get the point, and you're getting the point without banner. So you get the whole thing. And I've decided the tiny picture over here on the side is okay because after all, StreamYard does that without me telling it to in the new setup because StreamYard, they're supposed to be helping. They're not helping. But yes, all people who donate do get the point. There you go. Enjoy that. Thank you so much, Doc Torn. I appreciate that. Can we get back to our normal, regular, everyday? Thank you. I don't know why it switches it now, but it does. It just does. Oh, no. Hold on. Listen very carefully. Listen very hard. Can you hear it? You might have been able to hear it for just a second. The darned ice cream truck is coming through the neighborhood again. It was coming through here earlier, but now I see probably the guys just decided, yeah, I'm going to start doing it right at the top of the show again. I hate that guy. I really do. I just can't stand him. I can't stand him. Doc says, StreamYard helping line their pockets while claiming to be helping the customers. Yeah. And the same is true of the ice cream truck. I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, today's custom background is the Secret Service escorting President Gerald R. Ford. Let me tell you about the attempted assassination of Gerald R. Ford in Sacramento, what we call the Squeaky Fromme attempt. There's some things about this that are going to totally blow your mind. Number one is who did it. Number two is the things the person who did it did before they did it. And number three is the things Gerald Ford did after it was done or almost done. If that makes any sense at all. It probably doesn't, but I don't care. Cobra Kai! Because that's a thing now. That's a thing now. I might as well start telling you about it. It was way back in September of 1975, the 5th of September, 1975 to be exact. And just to set the stage, let me tell you a little bit about tonight's special guest star, would-be assassin. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about the one and only Lynette Squeaky. Yes, Squeaky Fromme. Now, this is a picture of her in 1965. And that would have been, I think, like her high school graduation or something, even before she joined the Manson family. Yes, I'm speaking of the Manson family, the Charles Manson family. Squeaky Fromme was one of the head people in the Manson family. And most people don't know why that she wasn't there on the nights of the Tate or the LaBianca killings, because she was one of the main Charlie's girls. As a matter of fact, if you've seen the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Squeaky Fromme is the one that's kind of running the show when Brad Pitt's character goes to the movie ranch to see Bruce Dern, the old guy, at the old Western movie ranch that he used to work at. The woman inside that talks to Brad Pitt the whole time and is commanding everybody what to do in the movie, that's Squeaky Fromme, Lynette Fromme. I think she's played by Dakota Fanning in the movie. Yeah, she was one of the... Yeah. So she wasn't exactly a stranger to crazy, wild things. And she herself had done some crazy, wild things. She was one of Charlie's earliest followers. She had a reputation for being the most devoted of his followers. And throughout the years, she has this leadership role in keeping Manson cult members in communication with each other after most of them had been in prison or scattered to the winds. Now, in April of 1971, just about 4 years before this assassination attempt, she served 90 days in jail. I'm not making the next thing up here. 90 days in jail. There was another family member named Barbara Hoyt, and she was a witness to the Tate murder. Kind of. Not really, but she knew that it had happened. She'd heard people talking about it and knew that it happened. And they were fearful that she was going to testify in the trials of Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Sharon Atkins, and Tex Watson, and Charlie himself. So, like any person would do, Squeaky Fromme laced her hamburger with LSD, a severe overdose of LSD, to keep her from testifying. And for that, she served some time in jail. And at the time of this particular assassination attempt, she lived in Sacramento, California, in an attic apartment with another very devoted Manson family member named Sandra, ironically, Sandra Good, very close friend and another longtime member of the Manson family. So 4 years later, it's 1975, and Squeaky here, And let's just show you a picture that's a little more befitting what was about to happen. There's our girl. Anyway, she wanted to confront President Ford because of environmental pollution that would adversely affect the redwood trees in California. You see, after Charlie went to the slam, Charlie started espousing this philosophy that he called ATWA: air, trees, water, and animals. And I think that was kind of an attempt to make him seem all nature-like, and I don't know. But that's kind of the organization that the family then kind of assembled around, okay? Now, there's a few things leading up to this attempt that involve her kind of nutty preoccupation with wanting to shoot somebody, especially the president. California had just gotten a new governor very recently during the previous elections, Governor Jerry Brown. And he refused to speak at what they called the host breakfast in Sacramento. Sacramento, of course, the capital of California, where the State House was. And this host breakfast was this annual meeting of a bunch of really rich business types. And Jerry Brown, the governor, a Democrat, said, no, I don't want to do that. Now, Gerald Ford, the president, wanted to teach this governor a lesson. So he said, hey, I'll speak at your big conference of rich people. Because remember, he was going to be trying to run for president. He wasn't elected the first time. He was appointed vice president and then was going to run for election for the first time. California, big state, very powerful, a lot of electoral votes. And he saw this as an opportunity to get in front of some people and try to maybe take the state of California by appearing at this host breakfast, amongst other things. So in early sort of 1975's August month, the New York Times reported that the Environmental Protection Agency had released a study about the smog in California. That's where Squeaky Fromme lived, and how that the smog was spreading out into the wilderness, into the country in California, not just Los Angeles, not just San Francisco. So President Ford had just asked Congress to relax, to get rid of some of the environmental protections for clean air. And she saw this as, oh no, he's trying to destroy the redwood trees. Incidentally, just as a little added icing to the cake about this particular assassination, just about 2 weeks before this assassination attempt, a guy by the name of Thomas Elbert was arrested for phoning the Secret Service and threatening to kill Ford when he visited San Francisco. So that sort of sets the stage. Squeaky Fromme is watching the news in her little attic apartment in San Francisco, and she learns by watching the news the details of President Ford's trip to California. Incidentally, just as a little spice for you, here's the daily diary of President Ford, and it tells every single thing that he did that day. If you'll look toward the bottom, you'll see from 10:02 to 10:06, the president walked from the Senator Hotel to the office of the governor of California in the state capitol. And then en route, the president was the target of an unsuccessful assassination attempt by alleged assassin Lynette Alice Squeaky Fromme. Miss Fromme was stopped by Secret Service agent Larry Boondorf. Because that's the kind of thing you put in your diary. Terry Nee says, as a teen, I saw Ford land at the Carlisle Army War Barracks golf course. He often spoke at the War College there. He was quite an orator, as they say. Now, as it happens, and I do bring you full coverage of this kind of thing, as it happens, the hotel Ford would be staying at, the Senator Hotel, was about a half mile from her apartment. And when she learned that, she decided, I can bring some attention to the beauty of nature by killing President Ford. And she said that she did this not just for her life, but clean air, healthy water, and respect for creatures and creation. Because shooting the president is a good way to do that. Now, at the top, you'll see that where President Ford's hotel was. At the bottom, you'll see where Squeaky Fromme's apartment was. You'll see in the middle the Capitol's east entrance and the location of the assassination attempt. So he was walking from one place to another when this happened. Now, we need to get in also to talking about the weapon. This is going to be really important, and I don't want to get in too much trouble with YouTube, so I'll show it to you very, very briefly. But there's the weapon involved, and it's a very ubiquitous firearm in the United States. Okay, this was the M1911 pistol, a 45. When people say they had a 45, they're usually talking about this particular handgun. And this was the official standard issue sidearm for the U.S. Armed Forces. And it remained that way for like 70 years. This is a famous, legendary firearm. This one was actually manufactured in 1911. Okay. And then it was used in the military. It was manufactured for the U.S. military. It was then sold as government surplus just 2 years later in 1913. And at that time, when it's sold as surplus, then it's out into the public and various people can own it. It usually wasn't used for crime, by the way, because it is a relatively large handgun, and it certainly is a heavy firearm. It's actually my pistol of choice. It's extremely reliable. It does have a 45 caliber slug, which it's a big one. It's a big one now. And it doesn't have a particularly fast speed. And what that means is basically when it hits you, you feel it. It's like getting hit with a bowling ball going about 55 miles per hour. Well, anyway, this guy named Zeke, sometimes they called him Manny. You got to remember, the Manson family and their associates all had like 17 nicknames. They didn't just have one. But this guy's name, we're just going to call him Zeke Borrow. And he was about 65 years old when this happened, 66 maybe. And he was a retired government engineering draftsman, okay? And he would hang around the Manson family. And this was also common for some of their little cohorts. They were older and they were sugar daddies. All these hippie teenage girls who now are getting into their mid-30s, he would just hang around them because they were hippie chicks. And he had met Squeaky Fromme about a year earlier in the park. And Squeaky would visit him in his apartment in San Francisco. Now, in turn for her friendship, and Squeaky, if you're going to believe the story that you saw on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie, and the actual truth that she buddied up with George Spahn and the Spahn Ranch during the actual killings the Manson family did, she was good at gussying up next to older dudes. That was her thing, right? He had loaned her a Cadillac. And so, in typical Manson family form, she wrecked the Cadillac. So he bought her a red 1973 Volkswagen. Because, that's what you do after somebody wrecks the Cadillac that you loaned them. Yeah. One day she's visiting his apartment, and she asks him for a gun. And she told him that she needed one in her apartment where she lived with a couple roommates for protection against enemies of the Manson family, which probably would have included any normal person in the United States. and prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, but that's another story. And by the way, I will do a show on the Manson family, but it'll take me 2 or 3 days because I know so much about it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Doc said it's a big one. Said that, and she did. Yeah, it's a big one. Anyway, so he has this 45, this Colt 1911, and a half a box of ammunition, about 25 rounds, and he showed her how to use it. He also had a pistol catalog in his apartment and said, look, pick something out of here. Don't take that one. Well, she did. She stole it from him with the ammunition and the magazine, despite his protests that he didn't want her to take that and other items that she also stole from him on that day. Now, he did a bunch of stuff the day before the assassination, like presidents do, and didn't arrive to his hotel room till about 11:30 that previous evening. On the morning of the assassination, Squeaky here arrives, dressed in red, and she dressed completely in red for the animals and earth colors. Yeah. And she placed this Colt 45 in a leg holster strapped to her left leg. And let me tell you something, Squeaky is not a very large lady, and that's a heavy weapon. So she schleps her way the half mile from her apartment over to the grounds there, near the state capitol. Remember, at the bottom right, there's her apartment, and in the middle there's kind of where everything went down. Ford had went and given the speaking engagement at the host breakfast, and he returned to the hotel afterwards. He does this 2-hour speaking engagement at the Capitol, and then he goes back to his hotel room, right? And as he does so, he's shaking hands with people in this park in the middle of this big green area, sort of toward the top of the screen. And there's lots of people there. And that's back when, a president did not have nearly the amount of, at least President Ford didn't have like huge amounts of secret security. And they would just walk amongst the people. Now, there'd be plenty of Secret Service agents there, but they were really in an unsecured area, not like a convention hall or a place that they would give a speech for an election. This is just open public. Those other places, you can search people, you can put them through a metal detector. He's just walking through the population, right? Shaking hands at about 10:02 in the morning. He was making his way toward the entrance of the state capitol building. He was going to go meet with the governor, actually, that had refused, Jerry Brown, that had refused to speak at this breakfast. And so he's walking from the hotel to the state capitol. He had gotten about 150 feet from the major intersection when he saw a woman in a brightly colored dress, and he stopped about halfway to the Capitol to shake hands. Now, people on either side of Gerald Ford wanted to shake hands with him. And he assumes that this lady dressed completely in red also wants to shake hands or talk. And that's when Squeaky Fromme, only 26 years old at this time, positioned herself 2 feet directly in front of Gerald Ford, just behind a couple of people that would have been in the first row of the crowd. Remember, he's very close to these people because he's shaking hands. She reached into her robe. She drew the Colt 45 from her leg holster. She raises her right arm towards Ford through the row of people and points the gun at a height between his knees and his lower torso. Now, Gerald Ford said later that as I stopped, I saw a hand come through the crowd in the first row, and that was the first active gesture that I saw. But in the hand, there was a gun. Well, the pistol has its ammunition in a magazine. And a magazine is that clip that you see people slide into the bottom of a gun in spy movies and stuff like that. And you'll see them do that, and then they pull back the slide at the top and let it snap back into place. If you don't do that second thing, there is no round in the chamber. There has to be a round in the chamber, or there's nothing for the gun to fire. Well, when Fromme pointed the gun at Ford, lots of people, including apparently Squeaky Fromme herself, heard a metallic click sound. Well, of course she did. There was not a round in the weapon. When you're firing the weapon, each bullet that you fire makes that slide come back. The explosive power of the gases inside the gun makes that slide come back, and it adds another round into the chamber. Without that, you're doing what's called dry firing. Normally, the firing pin has to hit the bottom of the round, and that's what makes the bullet fire. If there's nothing in there, the firing pin hits nothing. That's what happened in this instance. She starts shouting, "It wouldn't go off." Secret Service agent Larry Bundorf grabbed the gun, forced it from Fromme's hand, and put her on the ground, basically. On the ground, Fromme said, "It didn't go off. Can you believe it? It didn't go off." One of the Secret Service agents shouted, "Get down, let's go." And the Secret Service agents then half-dragged Ford away from Fromme toward the east entrance of the Capitol until Ford yelled, "Put me down, put me down." You can kind of see in this picture here, Ford is in the very middle. You see these two guys kind of on the sidewalk, the dude in the tie with the white shirt and the clipboard, and then the guy behind him with the mustache that's balding. Ford is just over his left shoulder. And all of these Secret Service agents and police are ushering him away at top speed. Gerald Ford, super stud president, yeah, he just continued his walk to the California State House, entered, and met with California Governor Jerry Brown 4 minutes later. 4 minutes after he witnessed someone try to shoot him, he's meeting with the governor of California. Met with him for about 30 minutes and did not mention the assassination attempt once. At the very end, when they had concluded talking business and policies and all that, he kind of mentioned it to him, but it wasn't a big deal. Ford, who later indicated he was not scared, concluded, "I thought I'd better get on with my day's schedule." Okay, dude. Here's Ford being reunited with his family just a few hours after the assassination attempt. There you go. Now, following the attempt, the Secret Service would not allow reporters or photographers near the president during his next trip to California. On September 20th, 1975, about 15 days later, United States federal judge Thomas J. McBride set the date for the start of the trial against Fromme for attempting to assassinate a U.S. president. 3 days before it began, President Ford gave a videotaped testimony from the White House as a defense witness in the trial, and that testimony was the first time a U.S. president testified at a criminal trial ever in history. Prosecutors were ready to present about 1,000 items of evidence seized from Fromme's car and apartment just after the assassination attempt, including that .45 caliber ammunition in the box she took from Zeke Borrow and the book The Modern Handgun. During the trial, Fromme refused to cooperate, going as far as to throw an apple at U.S. Attorney Dwayne Keyes after he urged that Fromme's punishment should be severe because she had shown herself to be full of hate and violence. And you know, the best way to dispel the notion that you're full of hate and violence, throw an apple at somebody. Yeah. The trial ended fast, November 19th, 1975. So just about 3 weeks after the trial started, and not that long, just, a little over 2 months after the attempted assassination. And she was, of course, convicted. She received a life sentence. During her imprisonment, Fromme escaped from prison and as a result received extra time added to her sentence after her capture. 2 days later, on December 26th, 1987, I guess she wanted out for Christmas. I don't know. And why wouldn't you just, try to escape from federal prison? Because the Manson family, of course. Betty Ford, the legendary Betty Ford that you see here in this photo, she revealed in a 2004 interview on Larry King Live, "Hello, Sheboygan, you're on the air." She revealed that following the attempt of her husband's life by Fromme, each time he left the White House, she would pray for his safety on one of the White House's balconies. Sacramento assassination attempt was the first one, as I mentioned earlier in the program, on his presidency. Just 17 days later, Sarah Jane Moore, a political radical, attempted to kill him in San Francisco. It also failed, of course. And 2 days later, this, by the way, also was in California. It was in San Francisco. 2 days later, California Governor Jerry Brown, who Ford was to meet with, and he's the reason, really, that Ford was there at that breakfast. He responded by signing into law bills imposing mandatory sentences for persons convicted of using guns and committing serious crimes, and requiring purchasers of guns to wait 15 days for delivery. Ford went on to complete his 1974 to 1977 presidency without any other assassination attempts. Okay, that was all over. In 1981, the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum was dedicated in his boyhood home of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And about 8 years later, the Office of the United States Attorney in Sacramento donated this. This is the actual firearm, Fromme's pistol, to the museum. Squeaky Fromme, you'll be glad to know, is out of prison. She's still alive. She was released from prison in 2009, about 2 years and 9 months after Gerald Ford passed away. She moved to Marcy, New York, to live in a house that looks like an old metal Quonset hut from the World War II era with Robert Waldner, another convict who had killed his brother-in-law. And apparently that's what she's doing to this day. Also, behind Atwa, they're still doing the air, trees, water, and animals thing. So there you go. Just another exciting exploit from one of the members of the Manson family. Kind of a kooky lady. I actually have ways of, and I've never done it, but I have the phone numbers of several members of the Manson family. Now, a whole bunch of the members of the Manson family have sort of changed their names. They've gone into like legitimate lives and tried to put it past them. Some of them have not. I would never think of contacting any of the ones who just sort of said, hey, I was whacked out of my mind on LSD and I was 17 years old or whatever. But the ones that are still on the Charlie is the greatest thing ever thing, I've thought about it. I have no interest in doing that whatsoever. Let them they can just be a Fruit Loop on their own time. But she is still with us and still trying to tell everybody, you don't understand what we were all about. It was really about love. and that whole mantra that they go into. So, hey, really, at this time, that's all I have to tell you about the first attempted assassination of President Gerald Ford. And much like the Andrew Jackson assassination that we covered a couple of weeks ago, just kind of an amazing reaction by the president. Just kind of like, okay, that's over. Better get to my meeting. Let's get to some of your comments. Please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. These things are all free. They don't cost you a penny, and they really, really help us out with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, not really a part of the Manson family, but something much bigger than air, water, trees, and animals. Algorithm. We also have super chats. We also have memberships. We love it when you take part in that. It helps us pay the bills around here. And then please sign up for a gifted membership. It tells how in the crawl at the bottom of the screen. And I would be really glad if you took this episode, or maybe an episode that you really, really like in the past, if indeed there is one. I know it's a stretch. And you just post it on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on your TikTok, on your Instagram, and let's grow this thing. Let's get this hip-hop party started around here, shall we? Cobra Kai! Because that's a thing. That's a thing now. Anyway, let's get to some of your very, very, very highly sought-after comments. Let's see. Doc says she was 5 foot something, 120 pounds. She's tiny. She's a tiny little thing, but extremely pugnacious and a real stick of dynamite. The wolf is with us. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, is verified by independent sources. The chef is here. He's an official chef. Chef, my sister's birthday was Saturday. You probably already knew that. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. Chef says he's trying to catch some salmon for dinner. Hey now. People saying hi. People saying hi. Let me see here. Doc says, firing pin hits the primer on the shell. Yes. Dry firing can damage the firearm. It can. It can. Some people do dry fire exercises. I don't recommend it. There are actually things that you can put in the chamber to do dry fire exercises that won't ruin your firing pin. But the dry fire is not bad for certain things, but you don't really want to do it. It'll mess up your gun. Hey, Gilman is here. There we go. Gene 1313 is like, yeah, he survived 2 attempted assassinations and was like completely not even fazed by this one. And Carter still beat him. He did. The economy. The economy was really bad. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. Great to see you, Gilman, by the way. Doc says, because unaliving your political opponents makes your claim right. Yes, I want better conditions for the trees and life and animals, so I'm going to try and shoot the president. Wolf says, cookie. Doc says, not from a traceable number. Anyways, well, this number was really traceable. Super duper traceable. I can tell you exactly where it was manufactured, where it was issued in the military. The history of this particular firearm has been very well documented, and largely because it was one of the first 1911s, the M1911, and it went directly into military service. That's a real good way to have that thing traced. So this gun was 65 years old, but it really doesn't matter with a Colt 1911. If it's kept in decent shape, it will last forever. And it's very unusual to have a particular firearm be the official sidearm for any nation, much less the United States, for like kind of 1911 is it, for around 70-ish years. That's how durable, useful, reliable this weapon was. It was the official sidearm. Very iconic, Chef said. Well, you heard about the birthdays. Yes. Coach Mike says, hello to all my friends in chat. Oh, hey, Tom. Kobakai to you, too. And people saying hi. Phone lines are open at 972-994-6822. It's down there in the crawl, even as we speak. No idea what tomorrow's show's about. I should do a Tate LaBianca Manson family show. I know so much about that subject. It's a little bit scary. Just a little bit scary. Julian Zeezer's with us. And how did she cock the 1911 without chambering around? Was the mag loaded and inserted? Yes, the mag was loaded. It was inserted, but there was no, she didn't rack one into the chamber. So that's where her plan fell to the ground, you see. She put the magazine in there and just thought that's how it worked. Nah, she wasn't paying attention when Zeke Borrow was instructing her on how to use the pistol. People saying hi. There we go. The Wolf says, sorry, I meant to say those kooky kids. That family just keeps giving. Yes. And you know, Leslie Van Houten has been released. Leslie Van Houten of the Four Ladies, she wasn't even at the Tate thing. She was only at the LaBianca. And Susan Atkins ain't never getting released. She died in custody. Patricia Krenwinkel, still behind bars. Tex Watson, still behind bars. So there you go. Coach Mike says you can cock a 1911 without loading a round. It has a hammer on the rear of the gun. You can cock it, but if there's no round in the chamber, it's not going to fire anything. Yeah, you can cock it all day. If there's no round in the chamber, have a good time. It's going to do exactly what it did to her. Click. That's it. Gene says Pat and Tex are still in. Oh, yes, they are. And I don't know that Pat will ever get out. She, you know, in truth, those people have been in prison and they got the death penalty, but then the Supreme Court revoked the death penalty and they were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole or something of that nature. Due to some procedural nonsense, Leslie Houghton was retried, and I think she got that same sentence. And, or maybe they just got life. I think they just got life. And so she had been approved, Leslie Van Houten, by the parole board like 4 or 5 times before they finally let her out. The others, I don't know if they'll ever get out. I don't think Tex Watson should. Tex Watson did most of the killings. I mean, he was a bad guy. He's apparently a born-again Christian and whatnot. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Tex Watson, there's some tapes that were given to his attorney of some recordings that were made when he fled to Texas. He didn't stay in California after those murders. He fled to Texas and was in custody there. And there's some tapes that is some lawyer had. There's a great deal of controversy regarding custody of those tapes. Many people believe that there's information on those tapes which may indicate that Charles Manson was actually at the scene of the Tate murders, which has never been proven. But there's just a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. Julian Zeezer's people saying hi. Chef said, I've heard your sisters are 21 now. That's their story, and they're sticking to it. People saying hi. People saying hi. Gene says, I think they will let Pat out. I don't know. She's not been very remorseful. You know, Leslie Van Houten did all sorts of things when she was in prison. She got various college degrees. She helped a lot of other prisoners get their high school or college degree. She started a newsletter. She did job training for people. She was very active and very remorseful. And that's why the parole board approved her for release so many times. I don't know that Patricia Krenwinkel has ever been approved even once. And we'll see. We'll see. I can tell you this. I believe Patricia Krenwinkel is the longest serving female inmate in prison in the United States. And part of the reason that it's difficult or had been difficult to release them is the political fallout. Do you want to be the governor that signed the papers that released the Manson family killers? I think in Leslie Van Houten's case, you might not mind doing that because she's an example of reform. And you have to remember, these people, at least the three ladies, they were very, very, very young. And they were taking an obscene amount of LSD and other drugs. Patricia Krenwinkel, she was at both of the killings and was apparently relatively savage about it. Leslie Van Houten was not at the Tate household, and she also at the LaBianca household. There's some evidence which would suggest that yes, she did plunge like a fork or a knife into, I believe, I don't remember if it was Lino LaBianca or Rosemary LaBianca, but that may have happened after it was post-mortem, basically. Not that makes it any better, but a lot of extenuating circumstances there. Fled to Texas, that was a bad idea. Well, actually, Doc, not at the time, because Tex Watson went back to his hometown, and he was a football star back in his hometown. I think he had a relative that was with the sheriff's department, and they didn't want to let him go. They didn't want to send him back to California. They were like, we ain't letting you mess with our Texas boy and stuff. But they eventually, things worked out. Tex Watson also got married and has fathered, I think, a few children since his release. Since his incarceration. So, anyway. But Squeaky Fromme, not to be outdone, decides, I'm going to shoot the president. Let's just say they're not really good people. Can we say that? Gilman says, how did Hinckley get paroled? And his so-called music is worse than his assassination attempt. Well, we actually did cover that during our show on the Ronald Reagan assassination attempt. I'm covering all these failed attempts because why not? They failed. And there's a lot more of them than you'd think. A lot more. The reason that Hinckley was given parole is that it's kind of a loophole, and I want to be specific about it, so let me pull up the information. Oh, this is great. Google has him as John Hinckley Jr., American musician, not evil attempted assassin of a president that's in love with Jodie Foster. No. The reason that he was let out, and it's a dang good question, he wasn't convicted of any of the sort of the criminal charges, because he was charged with attempting to kill the president, assault on a federal officer, use of a firearm, commission of a federal felony, assault with a dangerous weapon, assault with intent to kill while armed, assaulting a police officer with a deadly weapon, and carrying a pistol without the required license. He was actually found not guilty by reason of insanity. And if you go back and listen to that episode, you'll see all the things he did that sort of maintained his craziness. And so they started treating him, and then in 2016, they started slowly releasing him. There was a huge amount, a giant outcry on the parts of the Reagan family, certainly James Brady's family, the police officers that were shot. But because he was not guilty by reason of insanity, they started letting him out little by little, then a little more, in his mother's custody. John Hinckley's parents, extremely wealthy oil people. So they released him into her custody, for 3 days a week, had to record his browser history, he couldn't contact Reagans, the Bradys, the Fosters. During his trial, Jodie Foster actually had to testify, and he was yelling things at her and other people. In September 2019, Hinckley's attorney stated that he planned to ask for full unconditional release from the court, and, on down the line. Also at that time, Michael Reagan, Ronald Reagan's son, was in favor of his release. His daughter against it. And he was fully released from court restrictions just back in 2022. And that's when he started down this I'm a musician thing. But most of his endeavors, since then, like he tried to open up a music store. Yeah, the public outcry was so great that didn't happen. He's tried to sing at certain events and certain open mics and stuff. When people find out it can't be done, there's so many people there that hate him, he can't do it. So he does these little YouTube videos. You can go and watch him. He's really bad at music, but Chef says, I would say they're not Christians, but that's my opinion. I would say that too. They're a bunch of jerks. Julian Caesar says there's a page on Wiki about the insanity defense that's interesting. The insanity defense theory is basically going away because of how it's been, in the view of most people, abused. Well, I did a show on Tony Kuritzis, and he's a major player in the insanity defense evolution in the United States. And let me just pull up good old Tony Kuritzis, and I can be very specific about, his part in all that, because Tony Kuritzis, and it's a pretty good episode too, if you'd like to watch it. It's there in the archives. Let's see, effects of the case. Okay. At the time of Tony Kuritzis' trial, and if you remember, Tony Kuritzis is the guy that thought he was being gypped, swindled by a mortgage company. So he went to the mortgage company and wired the trigger of a shotgun to his neck. So he's got this shotgun up against the guy's neck, and there's a wire so that if anybody tries to tackle him or shoot him, it's called a dead man's wire. The shotgun's going to go off. Nice guy. Yeah, nice guy. At the time of the trial, Indiana law and that of many other states required the prosecution to disprove a defendant's claim of insanity. In other words, they had to prove that the guy was sane beyond a reasonable doubt. And as a direct result of this trial, Indiana and many other states substantially revised their law to place the burden of proof for insanity pleading directly on the shoulders of the defense. So it changed that. It changed that whole, prosecution having to prove someone's sane. Now the defense merely has to prove they're insane, if that makes any sense at all. At all. And by the way, Tony Kuritzis also not convicted of a crime. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Yes, and he only did about 10 years. Now, he didn't kill anybody. Also, during that story, you will hear the tale of me not only meeting Tony Kuritzis, but talking to him many times. The first time I spoke to him, I didn't realize who he was. His physical appearance had changed quite a bit, and his hair, which was very dark when he did all the things he did, had turned completely white, and he'd gotten in heavier and a lot of other things. So I didn't realize that. And then I'm at this sort of, it was a really old school restaurant. I loved that place. and you walked straight in the door. There was a little, podium there where the hostess was. If you went left, you went into the old school restaurant part, which was dark, and it had a fireplace and, candles that had the almost fishnet around the outside of them. And the placemats had illustrations of all the drinks they served on them. And it was old school, tablecloth, the whole 9 yards. And affordable prices. Older waitresses dressed up in real waitress garb, the white, and then if you went right, you were in this little sort of shotgun bar area. Probably a poor choice of words on my part. And then we were having to wait one time, and was a guy sitting there. He had a Colts, like a really nice Colts, like a warm-up jacket or something like that. And so I started talking to him a little about the Colts, and we struck up a conversation. And then it was time. They told us our seats were ready, and we went and sat down. And the waitress asked me, do you know Tony? Like, I don't know the guy from Adam. We just started talking about the Colts. And she just looks at me and goes, yeah, that's Tony Kuritz's. And I went, ring. Phone lines are open at 972-994-6822. So there we go. Gilman says, if you're insane, you can't be in public. You're insane. Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Julian Zezer says, I saw that show. It was good. Recommend watching that one. There's actually a documentary that was done about it. I hesitate to mention that because the guys that did the documentary were supposed to be on my podcast, and then they kind of big-timed me a little bit and kept rescheduling. I was very understanding the first two times, but on the third time I went, you know what? No. You don't get to big time me. Chef says, I remember that. I don't know if you remember the show or the Tony Kuritzis. The thing about Tony Kuritzis, you can go back and watch the episode, he held this guy hostage for quite some time. And he was calling into a local radio station, WIBC, talking to legendary newsman Fred Heckman. That's the only guy he would talk to. And he demanded a press conference. And it's one of the most amazing things you'll ever see, this press conference, because he's got Richard Hall wired up to this shotgun. And he is surrounded by police officers, close enough, way closer than Lynette Fromme was to President Ford. And they're around him, and so are all these newsmen. They could, like that. I could touch, you could just that close. And they broadcast this manifesto-like statement of his on live television. And all these news directors, it was in the late 70s, all of them wondering what happens if he shoots this guy live. We'll be able to get it off the air quick enough, all that kind of stuff. So, not that this wasn't maybe the greatest episode of the Tom Gulley Show ever here tonight, but certainly these past episodes I'm mentioning are also equally memorable, I'm sure, to all of you. Julian Zezer says James Brady's death was ruled a homicide even though he survived 30 years. Yes. That's not the only time that's happened. What was the thing we did recently that somebody... There's another case recently we had, and it's happened many times when someone dies and it's as they've lingered or their health is, they managed to live a sort of debilitated life. And they die decades later, but it's as a result of the things that happened to them long ago. You can still be found guilty of that. Coach Mike says, you don't come to Las Vegas and big time a man like Tom Gulley. You don't come to Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that. Fredo, you're my brother, and I love you. But Don't ever take sides against the family. You don't big time a man like Tom Gulley and live to tell the story. Well, maybe once. They were okay guys, I guess. The biggest thing they did, and I will give them props for it, is they got a lot of the recordings and a lot of that stuff together. So, whatever. Let's just say if I did a documentary on Tony Karitzis, it would be like 90 times better than theirs. It was done in a very average way, in my opinion. As a matter of fact, Richard Hall, who I believe has passed away since, did a lot of interviews about it, sort of before and after. And I think he wrote a book before and after that documentary came out. And the interviews with him are super awesome. The only great thing about that documentary is it's got all the footage of him walking down the street in Indianapolis with the cops just sort of following him 10, 20 feet away. Chef says, say goodnight, everyone, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. Good night, Chef. Anyway, that's all I got to tell you about all that stuff. I still, right now, to this minute, I don't know what tomorrow's show is going to be about. If you got a suggestion, say it now or forever hold your peace. I guess I'll keep this rolling for maybe another 5 minutes, and then we'll get out of here. But, yeah. Oh, yeah. And maybe some other time. The next assassination that we'll do will be of the attempted assassination of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which is not good. Not that any of them are good, but it's especially not good. The guy was a real jerk. We'll put it that way. The guy who did it was a real jerk. Hey, I'd like to thank the legendary Doc Torn for helping us out tonight with 2 separate $5 donations. Doc Torn, you're just too good to us. And that's why you're our resident Cajun. I'm surprised Funky Bronco hasn't asked what inanimate object best describes the size of your forthcoming child. I think the last time, what was it last time? It was the size of a peach pit, or I don't remember. Gilman says, Gilman knows all of his Hoosiers quotes. Leave the ball, will you, George? Rest in peace, Coach Norman Dale. You know what only a person from Indiana would notice when that happens? After George tells him, Mister, you screw up his team, and I'll strap your ass to a pine rail and run you up the Monon line. And he's walking out, and Norman Dale, as you correctly point out, Gilman, says, leave the ball, will you, George? George executes a perfect bounce pass when he throws the ball back. Like Norman Dale's standing like with he doesn't have to move his hands. It's perfect. Dead on perfect. So even though George was a major jerk in the movie, you could tell he knew his hoops a little bit. You know what I mean? Gilman, by the way, for your kind donation, you, of course, also receive the point without banner and without super chat. Look at that. Hey, Hepcat. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Coach Mike Turlick says, the jerk store called and they're all out of him. Julian Caesar says, Coach dropping a Seinfeld reference. Yes. Long live the DOC, the Department of Corrections. He goes up to Terhune. One of the things I love about Hoosiers the most is all of the Indiana town names, like Terhune, Ulitic, you know. What's the other one? There's a town, Cedar Knob. All this dumb. Anyway, I think there's a Floyd's knob or Floyd knob, or there's a couple of knobs. I wish there was only one knob, just for the pride in the state. There's not. There's a variety of knobs, a wide variety of knobs there. I'm sorry. I always forget to bump my... When I turn on the phone lines, it drops my volume by like 7%. I'm glad Ford warned the governor about the attempt so the governor wasn't sandbagged by the media. I don't think it was the governor's fault. Well, it wasn't the governor's fault, but if he'd have just spoken at the breakfast, he showed them. I think I know Atwa still has man, I cannot believe this. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just share it real quick, I suppose. It wouldn't hurt me to share it. Atwa still has a website, an active website. I can't believe it, but they do. And they may have two of them. Because there's actually been some splintering in the Manson family, the Manson family community over a lot of different things. So this is the Air, Trees, Water, Animals thing, that they do. Let's see here. Manson. It says Manson. Charles Manson founded the word Atwa. He founded a word. Although he is held as a political prisoner in one of the most polluted areas of the United States, his vision of life on Earth has inspired many people worldwide to learn about living in balance with the planet, blah, 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 blah. So they clearly haven't updated this in a while, which they should. Someone should let them know, guess what? It's just not... This is at war. I don't know what that's all about. But this hasn't been updated since 2013. So also, it says here, a support site for Atwa and the Charles Manson Truth Words Work struggle against 40 years of cowardice, stupidity, and lies. So he still has his wacky followers, I guess. His wacky followers. See, this is weird. If I do this without putting the picture up, it just leaves a big hole there. If I take this off, it goes to full screen. They have screwed this up so bad, it's not even funny. Let's see. Julian says not his fault, but reporters would ask him about it, and he'd have to admit that Ford didn't even mention it. Yeah. Kentucky has a knob lick. True. Gilman, I'll do you one better than that. Larry Bird is from French Lick. Actually, I think technically he's from a town right next to French Lick, but they used to call him the Hick from French Lick. But there is a French Lick, Indiana. Gene1313 says, I am shocked that they don't have college kids jumping on his bandwagon. Yeah, I know. Julian Zeta says, I hope Tom never goes crazy, and I want to be all over the TV as a member of the Gulley family. Yes, the insidious Gulley family cult. You know, kids, May the 5th, we are going to lose our ability to have the phone number that we have now, unless I figure out a way to convert that phone number to another service, because May 5th, I believe, is the day that Skype shuts down its service. And I'll figure out another way that people can access the show. Fear not about that, whether it's another phone service or what it is. But I have to tell you, I think May the 4th will be the last Skype day. I think I'll do a show on Skype, and we will have that be the last day. But I only say that because I'm closing the phone lines down right now. And you better take advantage of the Skype while it's still here. You just don't know what you've got until it's gone, really. You just don't. I'm trying to think of a really good topic. I guess I could do a show all about Hoosiers, the movie, tomorrow. Apparently some people like it. Or I could pick another TV show. Do I have anything written down here of note? Look at the stack of crud I got here on this show that I've got to go through. That, just too much. Oh, wait. There's over here. I don't want to do the Ramree massacre. I found out later that was kind of I could do a show on death masks. The Enigma outbreak is an outbreak of tornadoes that, due to the time and place it happened in history, there's only like circumstantial newspaper evidence. There's no photographs or anything. And nobody kind of has any information about it other than these newspaper reports. I was going to do one on kazoos today, but I thought, no, I'd actually like to get some clicks. Would be kind of nice. Cod liver oil. I don't know if I'm doing one on cod liver oil anytime soon. A woman lost in space. Oh, I meant to set up an interview today, too, by the way, and I never got around to it. I'm not doing one on Peter North, I decided. Already did one on haggis. Let's see here. Those are... Well, I could do one on COINTELPRO, but I don't think so. Barbie Benton. Hey, now. Sid and Marty Croft. I kind of want to do an entertainment one tomorrow. I'll figure something out. It's really not your problem. But, I could do one on Rocky Horror, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's a lot to cover there. We'll see. I'll do one. I'll figure it out in the next few hours and get that posted. But we'll have a show tomorrow. There's no question about that. Anyway. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this evening. I guess. I suppose. That'll do it. Gilman says, Hoosiers. It's March. You know, it is March, and Gene Hackman just passed. You know what? Gilman, for you, tomorrow night. Well, let me see something first here. Let me see something here. We got that. I got that. Okay. I got that. I'm sorry. I always try to see how much, in the way of imagery I'll be able to get. I think I'll be all right. I've actually met the writer and the director of Hoosiers. But, we'll be able to get something together. Wow, I was kind of stunned that they don't have more pictures of the actual actors. Some of these guys went into the movies, sort of. Like one of the guys is actually in Bull Durham. I think it's Everett is in Bull Durham, but he doesn't even have a wiki page. The principal is Sheb Woolley, who was on Rawhide, but he's also famous for a song called It Was a One-Eyed, One-Horned, Flying Purple People Eater. So we're going to do Hoosiers tomorrow by the request of Gilman. So that's what we're going to do. Kids, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And it says, well, like the Reverend Al Green, it's time for me to get on up out of here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And with all that being said, all of it, till next time, we'll see you next time.